I'm actually a bit nervous, which is really unusual for me. Today is the official launch of my book, Taboo, The Lost Codes of Men. And I want to talk about its origin. It all started back before 1995, where I listened to a book called Iron John by Robert Bly. Iron John by Robert Bly. Back when I was working at IBM, I was listening to it. It was challenging times in my career and my marriage. That was my practice marriage ended in 95, and I'm listening to this audio book and it's really affecting me very emotionally, and I can't figure out why. It was talking about something missing, a socialization and components missing for men in our culture. Well, that led me to, after my divorce and going to a men's weekend, and more of that's in the book. Then, when I got back, I said to someone, I really wish there was a group of men that could talk about real life topics and use the environment to create an inquiry that let us discover for ourselves new things. And he said, sometimes in life, the lantern you want lit is yours to light. So I went, okay, let's figure out how to do it. And I invited, I think it was almost 300 men to the first one. And I think 7 to 12, I don't know how many, showed up. and and we had a great discussion, and it was like, what does it mean to be a man today? And that was back in 1996, 97, after I had done this weekend. And following that, I continued to run the meeting month after month. And it was always a bit of a challenge because I thought, men aren't supposed to need anything, and men are supposed to have everything, and all these conversations that I had drilled into my head from reading all the personal development books. But it didn't match my experience or the experience of many of the men that showed up. And then a gentleman from Alaska talked to me and he said, I'd like to join your group. And it's just me and Raleigh. Well, that led to me having an online group on Yahoo for many years, and I'd post the questions. It wasn't the same. And then someone else said, what else can you do? And somewhere along that line, I thought, well, I'd love to capture the voice of these men, but it's confidential conversation. So I can't take what we said there because that's confidential. I've got to do something different. And what it led to is me taking the questions and getting over 100, I think 40 men to see if they would answer the questions anonymously that we had explored over many, many years in the men's inquiry and give us their answers. But then I had to go through and make each one of those answers anonymatize. I think that's the right word. And another gentleman named John Sharp, volunteered to help me with it. That's what led to the first book. And it's a very dense book. So I want to tell you in advance. And that's this, Finding Our Fire. And Finding Our Fire is the questions with men's answer. And what it reveals is kind of the unspoken voice of men about life. And what's interesting is this book here, which is pretty dense, is half of the original document. I'm not even sure if I have all the other. And then I sat down and looked, what's the most important components of this? And that's what this book came up with. And it has table of contents, the journey, men's inquiry, what is men's work, benefit, building fellowship, what does it mean to be an adult man today, what are constructive rites of passage, your mission, terms, and games worth playing, allowing contribution and mentoring, about fathers, about mothers, about shame and emotional wounds, our anger, our fierceness in dealing with conflict, finding our fears and learning to grieve, and keeping the fire alive. So that's it, but it's the conversation. So this is kind of not an easy read. It's sort of a pick up and read and think about. And that led to me talking to Fred Boyles that got me into originally. And the questions were so rich because what happened is every month at the end of the session, we ask, what is the next question to explore? So all of the questions were organically evolved over time from a group of men. They weren't what I thought of or what should be or something else. So then this is a well-loved book, but here's just the questions. And it's the questions from the inquiry over about 12 years, and it's came out about the same time. It's available on Lulu only. There's one on Amazon, but get it on Lulu. And it is these questions over the years. A number of people, especially Fred, has used this as a reference for men's groups for many years. But what happened with this first book, and you can read the story in the book, new book, is a man said, I read the book and I don't understand it. And we met at Panera Bread. He says, I want to sit down and talk to you. And I pulled out a napkin, and this vision came to me of drawing a triangle. And I said, there are four components to support men to mature, and our society's removed almost all of them. I mean, it's so weird because like all the core ideas came to me, and I don't remember any time putting them all together in this format. And I drew this triangle and wrote them down. They're all in both books, and you can look that up. It was really quite profound. And then I started working on it and talking about it. Then I gave some talks to some women's groups and some church groups. Now, this is not faith-based. It's faith-friendly from my experience, but not faith-based. It's not directly that. And I got very strong feedback, but I also got people upset because there's like an unspoken word of if we do something to help men, we'll take something away from women, which was the last thing in my interest because my mother, beautiful mother, late mother, was a champion of giving opportunities to women's, minorities, and children. In fact, she was, from what I can find, the leader of facilitating child labor laws in the United States and Washington, D.C. I worked on it, and then people kept saying, you need to get this book out. And then I put it down. Then I thought, okay, this is new information I need to adjust. And ultimately, I finally decided it needs to get going because someone agreed to help me that's a friend of ours. And she remotely, I said, I'll give so much money a month and we'll work on this together. And we worked on it and thought through each one of the ideas. Taboo, the Lost Code is a book where I'm the laboratory. I'm the test subject. And I think of this like the real early original science, the real science, the foundation. If you study the Galileos and all those, they are, and the chemists, they were often doing tests like, it doesn't kill me, therefore we might be able to use this. They didn't have a great research laboratory. They stood on the backs of great people, which is what I gained from my mentors and teachers and everything else. But they didn't do massive research. So I said, I don't want this to be a research book. There are a few references in it, and there are definitely some people who helped give me insights and ways to put things into words that are captured in this and referenced and hopefully all thanked in it. But this was my own journey of leading a men's groups, being in men's groups, listening to men, being the vice president of the Raleigh Men's Center for a while, receiving the Von Herring Mission of Service Award from the Mankind Project. I'm very grateful for that and many other things. And just my commitment, my beautiful bride, Barbara, and I got to know her as a friend in 1997. We were friends. So she said she saw me during the evolution. Maybe we can get some comments from her sometime. And then we married in 2005. She's the love of my life and really the finest woman I ever met. And I remember I asked Justin Sterling at the Men's Weekend, what's a sign you have the right partner? He says, does she inspire you to be a better man every day? And that's what Barbara does. But getting back to the book, it is 10 years of thinking, 10 years of struggling, 10 years of inquiry. I own it as my insights and experience. And what I found is it's been very helpful, not just for men, but for women. Women saying, I wish I had this 30 years ago with my son, or feedback that this has improved my relationship, or I didn't know, or it opened a conversation with my father. And then for men, I have to tell you, a lot of men don't have a great experience with, quote, self-help books, because unfortunately what often happens, this is from listening to them, is that a woman buys a self-help book and then she comes home and she goes, let me show you what's wrong with you. Many of them usually had an experience of shaming or being made wrong. And my intention with this is it's not that. It's different. It's a different experience. I said, I don't have all the answers. I have the right questions, but I don't have all the answers. And I really believe this is the root cause of most problems in our society. But one of the toughest is the chapter that the person helping me work on it insisted I work on. And I had to have a section of what's next. Where do I go from here? And writing that down that was the hardest. That was the last thing I did. That was really quite challenging. I am so excited about this. It is probably, I think, one of the most valuable books of our time, the most important to read. If you're a mother, if you're a father, if you're a wife, if you interact with men, if you're a young man and you're going, something doesn't add up for me. They say all this, but that's not my experience. And it's to open the door of a conversation. And what I ask is, if you get value out of this book, let 3 people know about it. This is a book that will evolve and grow and get out there by you, not by me. It's going to be those that champion and see the value and insist. One person already bought 3 books, they told me, to give their daughter and their son. And it's a door opener for conversations. I think it's one of the most valuable books of our time period. And I'm eager to hear your input on it. You can find a link to my YouTube channel. So when you give me feedback, I'll start making more videos. I'll give some more content. Many of you know me from my business work. This is core to my bucket list. Taboo, The Lost Codes of Men. You can find it on Amazon and also the website taboothebook.com. And thanks for taking the time to listen to my official launch. And I want to hear from you. If you get value, first thing when you skim it is go and write a review. That really helps. Second is refer it to 3 people or buy them for them. It's a very affordable book. I made it affordable. It's in the format of Kindle. It's a format of paperback. And there's a beautiful hardback, and it's on Audible using their new digital service. Look forward to hearing from you, and have a wonderful day. This is Martin Brossman. Take care.